Although small, the everyday soldier of the Danish armed forces remain well-trained individuals who are versatile in their professional fields of defense. And today here on FTD Facts, we are going to continue to learn more about the military of Denmark and find out what is great about it. Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to FTD Facts. My name's Dave Wapple, the channel where I talk about people, cultures, and places from all around the world. Now, welcome to this episode. I'm pretty excited for it because today we're going to be looking at the Army of Denmark, or the Danish Army, if you would prefer to say it that way. Now, the reason we're talking about that is because we just did a video talking about how powerful the entire armed forces and the defense forces of Denmark is. And you know, that video just got a lot of love and a lot of appreciation from you guys. So we decided, you know what, we're going to continue to learn more about Denmark's military. And today we're learning about the Army, which is specifically the ground forces. We're not talking about air and we're not talking about sea. With that in mind, let's get started. But before we do so, just letting you know how it works here on FTD Facts is the more you guys give us like buttons, the more we will do either part 2s or we will continue to talk about military forces or just Denmark topics. So give us likes if you guys want more topics and videos around Denmark. Cool, let's roll. So the Danish Army, how are they different from other armies around the world? Well, first of all, they have an extensive history. But as for today, the Army's main mission states that the Army guarantees that Denmark can at any time provide a robust reaction camp group in international operations and solve the necessary tasks at home. So it is known as the Danish Army, and it has been around for a long time, and it's got a history. As a matter of fact, it's one of the longest standing armies in today's world, as it was originally founded on November 17th, 1614, when a conflict between Denmark, Norway, and Sweden was happening at the time. Although the country and region of Denmark had its own armies long before this and during Viking times, it also did have several conflicts with Sweden even in the 1400s. But as for the modernized version of this army, it was formed pretty much after the Kalmar War, which was between Denmark, Norway, and the country of Sweden. Now, the reason this new army was formed was simply out of the lessons that they learned from the Kalmar War. They learned that they needed a more unified army that was designed to protect Denmark's interests and prevent war. And because of that, it was established by King Christian IV, who actually served as commander-in-chief of this new army, which as of today is over 400 years old. That is an old army. So for this newly formed army of Denmark, one of its first major engagements was during the 30-Year War, which was a war between many of the Central European countries that began in 1618. Although the war did begin in 1618, Denmark didn't mobilize and enter the war until about 1625. This is when Danish forces had been mobilized and sent to Lutheran communities of what is now Lower Saxony in Germany. And it was during that time when Denmark made its point during the war, as it defended these Lutheran communities against the imperial forces. Of course, throughout history, Denmark has been a part of many major conflicts, such as the Northern War, the Dano-Sweden War of 1657 and 1658, the Napoleonic War, and of course the First and Second War of Schleswig, and many more. To go a little further into this, the Second War of Schleswig is a very important war for Denmark, because although it ended in 1864, it was the last time for a long time that Denmark had ever committed the Danish army to any form of combat. But now it's the 1900s, and Denmark actually remained very quiet for the early turn of that century. And although the Danish army kept its nose out of many other conflicts, the Second World War was just booming around the corner. So the one thing was, when it came to Denmark and its sort of position during the Second World War, is they really didn't have much of a position because they were occupied very quickly. Because on April 9th of 1940, Germany had begun its occupation of Denmark. It was in the early morning around 4:50 a.m. that the Danish army had first come into conflict with the German military just outside Lintofbjerg, which was one of the first major battles that began the occupation of Denmark. Now, compared to other countries around the world, for Denmark, a lot of historians actually argue over the amount of casualties that happened during the war, because it's estimated that anywhere between 20 to 40 Danish soldiers were lost or wounded, with about 20 Germans who were also lost or wounded. But either way, guys, that is just a brief look and history at the Danish Army, because I want to jump into the modern world because there's some interesting facts about what it is today. Because it's interesting to know that in 1995, the Danish Army was a part of an operation in Bosnia, known as Operation Bolabank, or in English, Operation Hooligan Bashing. Should also be mentioned, this is also linked to Operation Amanda, in which Danish forces were heavily a part of the United Nations Protection Force, also known as UNPRO-4. It should be noted that on April of 1994, during Operation Bolabank, it was the first conflict that Denmark had ever been a part of since the Second World War. And even so, it's interesting to know, and a lot of people kind of just say this, it's not realistically historically proven, but during these two operations, it was the first time that Denmark or any country ever in the world used the Leopard 1 tanks in a form of offensive combat. Which I do find it kind of hard to believe that the Leopard 1 hadn't seen any major form of hostile engagement, because the tank had been around since the 1960s, I believe, and it's a very old tank. However, whether or not you want to give that one to the Danish Army or not, one thing that is known is it has been the largest battle with the UNPRO-4 during the Bosnian forces, and although it might seem like a very small battle because the Danish forces only had 3 Leopard tanks, the truth is it's one of the largest battles that Denmark ever was a part of since the war. But now let's fast forward just a little bit more to actual today and find out what it's all about. For example, as of right now, the Chief of Defense is General Bjorn Bisserup. As for today, they say the Army itself is believed to have approximately 12,500 active personnel. And of this active personnel, they say on an average that there's approximately 6,500 soldiers and approximately 4,000 to 6,000 conscripts every single year. Of course, within the Army, it's not that small. They also have a reserve personnel of at least 63,000 individuals. Should also mention that when it comes to women, they are allowed to serve in all forms of the Army, and that became a rule in 1974. So how does the hierarchy work, and how does this Army break down? Well, let's take a little look. Unlike some other armies around the world, Denmark is said to only have one division, called the Danish Division, in which under there are 2 brigades. As well, these 3 major units are located in 2 areas of the country. For example, the Danish Division and 1st Brigade operates out of Haderslev, and of course, the 2nd Brigade operates out of Slagelse to the east. Under all of this, there is several different types of services, such as the Army Combat Fire and Support, which is basically your artillery. There's also the Engineer Regiment, the Signal Regiment, Logistics Battalion, and of course, Army Intelligence. Also, I should mention that there is a special cavalry unit called the Guards Hussars. I always thought that that was a really cool name. And under this, there is a regiment also called the Jutland Dragoon Regiment. Now, this is a very important regiment because they are the only armored battalion and they use the main battle tanks. And I should also mention that it was this particular regiment that was used during Operation Bolabank. And to break down some of the equipment that this army uses, in the Dragoon Regiment, they use the Leopard 2A5s, which have a 120mm cannon. Currently, according to the Danish Army website, they say they have 51 of these tanks. Other reports also say they do have those, but about 38 of them are only in active service and the rest are in storage. As for infantry fighting vehicles, they use the Swedish-made CV-90, in which they say they have approximately 45 of them. For the Danish Army, when it comes to the main rifles, they use the Canadian C7 and the Canadian C8. I'm Canadian, so I'm proud that you guys are using our rifles. Yeah, they're good. As well, for machine guns, they use the German-made MG3 and the American M60. And of course, we can't finish this video off without talking about medals, because that's very important as well. Because the highest form of respect and honor that one can achieve when it comes to medals is one can get the Valor Cross. And believe it or not, this is a rather new medal as well, as it was established on November 14th of 2011. And to date, only one soldier has received the Valor Cross, and that is Sergeant Casper Westphalen Matheson, who on February 19th, 2010, held his position until reinforcements came, and even used his own body to block his wounded fellow soldiers from incoming fire. So with all these forces, I should also mention that Denmark has one very interesting thing that not many other countries have when it comes to training its officers. And that is the fact that when it comes to the Royal Danish Military Academy, it is one of the few countries and militaries that train their officers in a palace, which is the Frederiksberg Palace. And they have been training there since 1869, but beforehand, it was a summer residence for the royal family. So there you go, guys. That is us taking a look at the army specifically of Denmark. Sure, we missed a lot of great facts, and if we did miss some, be sure to let us know down there what we did miss in the comments section below. For you, the viewer, I just want to thank you for taking the time to learn about a great military force that's probably not your own, or maybe if you are watching it, you're getting an opportunity to learn about your own country's military. My name is Dave Walpole, and with that in mind, guys, if you guys really like this video and you want more Denmark military videos, be sure to hit the like button because, yeah, if we get more likes, like over 5,000 or whatever, then we generally do part 2s, or we do just more videos around these kind of topics. Also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and that bell notification because we got a lot of great stuff that you guys can check out. I'll put some at the end of this video and in the description box below as well. But today, you and I learned of the great army of Denmark, one that has a very extensive history and has been around for a long time. Sure, the Danish army may not have been in many conflicts like other countries around the world, but it doesn't remove the fact that the soldiers of the Denmark army are a lethally trained force. And no matter where these soldiers are in the world, and no matter what job they do, they are always there for peace, prosperity, and protection. So thanks for watching, guys. Alright, so here's some other videos that you guys can check out. Told you we got a lot of great stuff that you guys would like to learn about. It's either countries or militaries or just cool what-if videos where we look at two countries and put them together. Either way, I hope to see you guys again, and I'll see you in the next one if you're around. Bye.